going to tell you a story that I've been thinking about that seems kind of applicable to what's happening in our world now. This is a Native American story by some tribes. This is a story about a cave. Once there was a cave, and in this cave was all of the power, all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom to know what to do. This cave held all the secrets to fixing everything in the world. The problem is no one saw this cave, even though there were trails and there were pathways and roads that went right by this trail. Nobody saw it. And if they would have seen it, well, they would have gone inside and found an old woman. This old woman, she was very old, with gnarled fingers and chiseled features. And she had been weaving this rug for a long time, more years than we can count. And a beautiful rug it was, and she was getting to the end of this rug. And she wanted to make it very fine, so she had to use porcupine quills. And in order to use porcupine quills, well, she had to chew on them. And she'd been chewing on porcupine quills for so long that what had happened is she had worn her teeth down and could only gnaw on them with her gums. It took her a very long time to make this rug. And in this cave there was also an ancient fire, a fire older than memory itself. And above this fire was a cauldron. And this cauldron, well, it held all of the seeds of all of the plants on earth. Every tree, every vegetable, every fruit, every plant, every flower was held in this cauldron. So she'd get up time and time to stir this cauldron so the seeds wouldn't burn. So it was time to get up and stir the cauldron, so she moved very slowly, of course, all bent over and gnarled with joints that were big and misshapen. She walked over to the cauldron to go stir it, and when she did, well, this black dog that had been living in the cave with her, well, it saw this loose thread over on the rug she had been weaving. So it got this thread in its mouth and started pulling and playing and pulling and running and pulling and playing until the rug was completely unraveled and in chaos, a pile of threads. So when the old woman finally makes it back to the rug, she sees what this black dog has done to this rug. And she sits down by the rug and starts to think. And she's looking and she notices that there's also this thread. And she sees this thread. So she walks up to this thread and she says, "That's kind of interesting thread." So she takes this thread and begins to weave this rug. And as she does, she's realizing she's making an even more beautiful pattern than she's ever had before. She would have never seen this pattern in her mind if that dog hadn't completely unraveled this beautiful rug. So she works and works and it becomes beautiful. And when the elders tell this story, someone always says, "That's a damn dog. If it hadn't have pulled on that thread, it would have been a perfect rug." And the elders say, no. There's no such thing as perfect, because when you're perfect, it means that you're done, you're finished, you're complete. And that means death. And so the moral of the story being that we are that old woman. We are the old woman seeing that chaos in the world we have right now. And it's up to each one of us, of course, to take that and reweave a rug. How do we reweave this world that has become unraveled by this black dog? And of course, there's a lot of metaphors in there. We know what comes to mind is Plato's cave allegory and the unconscious mind. There's Jungian references in there too. But really, instead of us looking at this chaos and throwing our hands up and reposting memes, it's up to each one of us to find that loose thread that looks familiar to us or unfamiliar and begin to reweave the world that we want to see, recreate the world we want to see, reimagine the world that we want to see. It takes work. And we have to be grateful for that unraveling, because only in the unraveling really is how we can recreate and reweave. There's so many places to go with this, but I just want to offer that story to you as a way to think. There's an old Irish story that's pretty similar to it, that talks about when the world falls apart, it's up to each one of us to go to the edges of that world and pull to the center our own piece of that thread. We are part of this thread. Native American stories are rich with, of course, Grandmother Spider teaching weaving and how that relates to the unified theory of everything, string theory. I always love exploring those kind of ideas. But it's been a difficult week for many of us, and it's going to only become more difficult. But we can reweave, we can reconnect by knowing what's important, and sometimes gnawing that little quill down to the nub of our teeth. Sometimes it's what it feels like, but it really does take a sense of compassion and a sense of kindness, and that's something that's only responsible for us and only that we can do. So, I've had some interesting experiences this week, and some ones that have challenged, and I'm grateful for them, like the unraveled rug, because it causes me to reflect on what's important, what's really important, and what little that I can do to reweave. So, peace to all of you, blessings, listen to music, and just find a way back to your center. Usually it involves other people. I mean, we're here in relationship with other people as humans, and we exist on a planet that is very fragile, but a huge gift as we hurtle through space and enjoy our abundance and our bounty in the northern hemisphere of that summer is bringing, of the great harvest. And use that harvest as a metaphor. Use that harvest to nourish yourself, to store it for the future, and to share it with other people. And that is how we recreate, we reweave this world. So blessings and peace. Namaste.